The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Some Sadducees, those who deny that there is a resurrection, came forward and put this question to Jesus, saying, "Teacher, Moses wrote for us, if someone's brother dies leaving a wife but no child, his brother must take the wife and raise up descendants for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first married a woman but died childless. Then the second and the third married her. Likewise, all the 7 died childless. Finally, the woman also died. Now at the resurrection, whose wife will that woman be? For all 7 have been married to her." Jesus said to them, "The children of this age marry and remarry. But those who are deemed worthy to attain to the coming age and to the resurrection of the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. They can no longer die, for they are like angels, and they are the children of God, because they are the ones who will rise. That the dead will rise, even Moses made known in the passage about the bush, when he called out, 'Lord, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.' And he is not God of the dead, but of the living, for to him all are alive." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Do you believe in the resurrection? Do you believe in the resurrection? Kind of an important question. Do you actually believe in the resurrection of the dead? This is a very important question for Catholics, for Christians. Do you believe that there's life after this life? Now, it might seem a little silly to be even asking people who are showing up to Mass, do you believe in the resurrection? Of course, that's the obvious answer, you would think. But the truth is, there's a lot of people who claim themselves as Christians, claim themselves as Catholics, and really don't. They don't actually believe there's a life after this world. They believe that, the Christian mindset just helps you get through this life, but at the end of the life, it's kind of like when your TV goes out, it just goes black. Everything just goes to black. And there's a lot of people who just find Christian ethics, the Christian way of living, is a good way to live this life, but they don't really believe there's a resurrection. They don't believe that there's going to be anything after this. The Sadducees of today's gospel are actually kind of like that. They're Jewish religious leaders. These are not just Jewish political leaders. These are Jewish religious leaders who do not believe in a resurrection. They believe that God is going to punish you in this life or bless you in this life. And if you're being punished, and a lot of times they believe this, if you're being punished, it's because you deserved it. Whatever it is, you may not know why, but you probably deserved it for something. I got that response from my parents a few times in life. But the reality is, as Catholics, as Christians, it's important to ask the question, do you actually believe in the resurrection? And there's 2 different questions wrapped into that. First off, do you believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead? Do you believe that he rose from the dead? There's a lot of people that, if you don't believe that, the rest of the Christian faith doesn't really make sense. Do you believe that Jesus rose from the dead? The apostles, every single one of the apostles gave their lives to proclaim that Jesus truly rose from the dead. Okay, I could understand if being an apostle and proclaiming the resurrection was going to get you a wealthy style of life, that you might do that and might hold up the lie through your life because you had a good life from it. That's not the life the apostles got out of it. The apostles were persecuted and kind of on the run for the rest of their lives. They were sent out to countries where they didn't even know the language. They had lives of suffering to hold up to the truth that we have truly seen Jesus Christ risen in the flesh. That Jesus Christ truly rose from the grave. The apostles held to this even at the cost of their own life. Every last apostle gave their life to hold up that this truly happened. Except for John, they tried to kill him and it didn't take. You know, it's so disappointing when you try to boil somebody alive in oil and they just don't die. The Romans were a little disappointed in this. And yet, every single one of them gave their life. John gave his life by ending up in exile. So he lived a long life, but he lived it in exile. So in a different way, he gave his life to hold this is true. Jesus Christ rose from the dead. The second question, that's probably where more people have iffy questions. Do you really believe that you will rise from the dead? Do you really believe that you are going to have a life after this world? The Sadducees were questioning this, talking about somebody who had been married to 7 different brothers in a family, all of them dying childless. Who's going to be their wife in heaven? This would be silly. And without getting graphic, there's a reason they're asking this question. That reality, Jesus is saying, the resurrection is going to be beyond what you understand. Yes, relationships do continue into heaven, but it's not going to be married life as married life is here. There is truly a resurrection. This is Jesus' proclamation to us. God is the God, He is not God of the dead, but of the living. For to him all are alive. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were long dead by the view of the Sadducees. And Jesus is saying they are alive right now before God. There truly is a resurrection from this life. There is life after this life, which should change how we live this life. If you live this life just for this life, then following the rules of the Catholic faith, following the 10 Commandments, only makes sense when it's truly useful to you. You should only help people. It'll make you feel better when you help people that can't repay you, but you should only help people as much as it makes you feel good, as much as it makes you happy, if there is no resurrection. If there is no resurrection, then you better expect that if there is a God at all, then you're going to be rewarded in this life, and if you have suffering all the way to the end of your life, then apparently you did it wrong. Well, if there is a God, and suffering is an indication that you deserve punishment, then all the apostles deserve punishment for what they lived. This is not much reason to live the Christian life. But if there is a resurrection, as we proclaim and profess as Catholics, as Christians, a lot of suffering makes sense. A lot of the hardships we face in life start to make sense. I'm suffering in this life to help somebody else know the love of God. That's what he did. When we look at that cross, we look at the reminder that he suffered to remind us that God says you're worth it. You are worth dying for. You are worth suffering for. You are worth it. Our own suffering for others is a chance for us to show how much we love them. And that suffering will be rewarded in the life to come, as it unites us more closely with the cross of Jesus Christ. There is a resurrection. Christ is truly risen from the dead. We truly will rise after this life. So how are we living? This is where I love the old monastic phrase, brother, remember your death. Nice and cheerful. Brother, remember your death. If we realize and believe that there is a resurrection, and we keep our eyes fixed on our own death, it helps us live better. If I live each day as if it's my last, how much better is it? I remember a friend of mine was my roommate on a Haiti mission trip, and we were talking late at night, and I said, well, it's time for bed. Within 5 minutes, I was snoring. And he looked at me the next day, and he's like, I've never known anybody who could fall asleep that quickly. We were talking, and next thing I know, you're snoring. And I said, that's what a clear conscience will do for you. I say it in jest, but at the same time, there's a lot to be said of you sleep better when you go to bed at the end of a day saying, if this was my last day, I'm good. If this was my last day, I've forgiven the people I need to forgive. If this was my last day, the people I love most have heard it from me. Not just I think they know it. They have heard it from me. I love them and how much I love them. Or at least to the best of my ability, I've told them how much I love them. If you go to bed each day as if it was your last, there's a peace about it. If this was my last day, it was a good day, it was a good life. Brother, remember your death. May we truly live as people of the resurrection. People that recognize, I will see these people again in the resurrection. I can go to sleep in peace. I can go to sleep in peace trusting in God. But to do that, I need to live each day as if there will be consequences, positive and negative, for how I live my life in the life to come. And I truly believe in that life to come. When I'm face to face with God, how will this day affect my experience of seeing him face to face? If this was my last, how would it be to go before God saying, this is how my life ended? Lord, I always commend my life to your mercy. May I live this life well to live forever with you in heaven.